Welcome to section 6.3. I'm actually going to blend 6.3 and 6.4 kind of together. The only distinguishing difference is trinomials. Notice are of the form ax squared plus bx plus c. And I'll talk a little more about the standard form in just a second. But the first coefficient, so the number in front of x squared, is just 1 in 6.3. So I'm going to teach the general method about how to do this overall. Now, first off, there are multiple ways to factor trinomials. So if I have three terms, factoring by grouping doesn't really work because you have, well, you have a pair and then you have a single, and that doesn't really work. So I'm going to introduce something called the AC method. There's also something called the guess and check method, and some of you may have also heard something called the box method. I'm not going to cover the box method. I'm just saying it out there. If you learned it in high school or something else, feel free to use it. The guess and check method you're welcome to use, but make sure that you show your check and your guesses. That's going to be that's important. So show me, I want to see your thought process. That's why the AC method is really nice. It's a very simple way to show me your thought process. So make sure you go through all that. Now let me explain what the AC method is. First off, as we said, the standard form of a quadratic trinomial is ax squared plus bx plus c. So a is the number for x squared. B is the number in front of x, and C is just the constant, just the number. What we're going to do is we're going to, 1, multiply A times C. Then you're going to list all pairs of factors of AC. So all pairs of numbers that multiply together give you A and C, AC. And then finally, you're going to determine which of those pairs adds up to B. And then split BX into two terms. This is probably a lot easier to do using some examples. And again, notice the last step is because we have split the middle into two terms, we have 4 terms, so we can use factor by grouping. So let's just do an example. So notice A, in this particular case, A times C is 1 times 8, since your coefficients are 1 and then 8's the last one. So 1 times 8 is 8. I'm going to pause the video. What are the pairs of numbers that multiply together to give me 8? All right, you hopefully found this list. And notice I was very thorough with both positive pairs and negative pairs, because -1 and -8 do multiply together to give me +8. So you got to think about all the possible combinations. In this particular case, and I'll talk about this a little bit going forward, because this is +9, I can focus on the positive. There's some intuition about there because we're looking for pairs that add up. 2 negatives are obviously not adding up to a positive. So now, let's take our polynomial. Which of these pairs adds up to 9? Well, hopefully you said 1 and 8. So I'm going to split 9x, and I'm going to write it as x, because the coefficient's 1, and 8 as 8x. So I took the 9x and I broke it up into 2 terms, using the 1 and the 8, because 1 plus 8 is 9, and 1 times 8 is 8. Now we can use factoring by grouping. So go ahead and pause the video, finish factoring this by grouping. All right, hopefully you recognize that you can pull an x out of the first 2 terms, 8 out of the second 2 terms, and then you can pull x plus 1 out of that. So your final answer is x plus 1 times x plus 8. Now this method, for those that have tried guess and check, seems a little bit extra for this kind of problems, but I guarantee you it will help you more in the future section. So I recommend at least trying this so you can master it, because it's the most effective way I've found for students to master factoring in general. All right, let's do another one. So again, I want you to first decide, what is A times C? Well, you say it's -40. All right, now can you list all the pairs of numbers that multiply together to give me -40? Well, there's a lot. Here they are. And notice, I could have also done -1 and +40. I didn't do that on the list because I'm going to add up to a negative number, which means the larger number has to be negative. Now, as you go through this list, you say, okay, which of these numbers adds up to -6? Well, it's this one right here, 4 and -10. So we take our polynomial and we're going to split that middle term to positive 4x and minus 10x. Now again, we're going to factor by grouping. So you can pause the video and go ahead and finish doing the factoring by grouping if you want. All right, so hopefully you realize I can pull x out of the first two terms and minus 10 out of the second two terms. So I get x times x plus 4 minus 10 times x plus 4, or in other words, x minus 10 times x plus 4. That's it. Again, we can multiply this out to double check our answer. All right, I want you to go ahead and try the AC method to factor this one. All right, so hopefully you multiplied a times c, and you got 40, positive 40 this time. So where are my pairs of numbers? Well, I got 1 and 40, 2 and 20, etc., etc., etc. Now the question is, which of these pairs of numbers adds up to negative 3? The answer, none. Huh? Well, it is possible to have it happen that none of the numbers factor, and that actually just means that we have a prime polynomial. Just like you can have a number that you can't factor except for one in itself, you can have a polynomial that you can't factor any more polynomials out of. And that is a prime polynomial. So be aware that this could pop up. And if you were trying to do the guess and check method, you got a lot of guesses and checks to verify before you know that it's prime. Okay, so let's go on to another example. Can you do the AC method on this one? So can you find AC and then go through that process? Go ahead and pause the video and work through it. All right, so hopefully you realize that's negative 24 pairs of numbers, this long list. Now, which of those adds up to positive 10x? No, this one right here, negative 2 and 12. So using that pair, I'm going to split up positive 10x to negative 2x and 12x. Factor by grouping, and then again factor by grouping. So we can do all this by just this AC method makes this so much simpler. All right, I want you to pause the video and go ahead and do this one. Okay, so hopefully you already did it, and you realize that A times C is just going to be positive 16. Your numbers, now I went with all negatives because it's negative 8, and notice it's the last pair of negative 4 and negative 4, so negative 8x is going to break into exactly this, negative 4x and negative 4x, again factor by grouping, and we end up with x minus 4 times x minus 4, or we could just write it as x minus 4 squared. This will turn out to be one of those special cases when we get to section 6.5. All right, one more example, and then we're done. So I want you to try this one. Go ahead and pause the video and work through it. All right, so hopefully you went with 18 as being your A times C. These are all your pairs of numbers. You get minus 9x, which is minus 3x and minus 6x, because those are the numbers that add up to negative 9 and multiply to positive 18. And you can factor by grouping, and factor by grouping again to find x minus 3, x minus 6. All right, so please let me know what questions you have. Please make sure that you work through all the examples and all the homework. And again, let me know if you have any questions. Good luck.